Everybody wants their brand to look good before it even starts. All right. Like, as long as I've been doing this, I've seen 99 out of 100 people not even get start because they want the thing to look better than it is before it even is. And I'm laughing. I'm not trying to be facetious, man. You already know this is still growing sessions just for people who are just up. They're really just going to be transparent and vulnerable about being themselves and growing into who they are. But that also requires us to have real conversation. Like, so you can like, subscribe, and leave a comment. You don't do nothing at all. It is what it is. So, the reason we're going to talk about consistency, that's really the thing we want to talk about. We're not even really going to talk about aesthetics. This isn't about how to make your aesthetic better. I mean, I guess in a way it can be, just simply because consistency is the road to have a valuable aesthetic. A story that I'll tell about this is like growing up when I was young, they used to always tell me that you shouldn't do anything for a girl that you can't be consistent. All right, so you gonna pull up in a limo, I have a limo every time. You gonna take them out to eat, you gotta take them out to eat to that 5-star restaurant every time. You can't pick her up on a bike later or bunk her down to McDonald's. You feel me? Like, you gotta give us a stand and maintain. So a lot of times, like, I would have rentals at my venue, and oftentimes people were usually the most late or unprepared because they hadn't even fed themselves yet. They weren't properly dressed, or they just didn't have the materials that they had planned on having 30 to 60 days prior. These are things that you have full control over. But I always knew it wasn't anything personal because I had hundreds of people do it. Yeah. And oftentimes I would think it was like I should have some feel bad for them or I should like sympathize with it. But it's because the way that we've been presented, educated on this industry of entertainment, things are being changed to fit narrative that people are not themselves, truly. So then you have to have that same doctoring and that same cosmetic work done on every one of your pieces. You need somebody to edit everything, or otherwise you can't post. You need somebody to consistently give you all of the tools, or you can't get started. So I just wanted to be intentional about saying, like, this isn't about hating on or putting down aesthetics. It's that you want to be able to consistently maintain those aesthetics. So let's keep it moving, right? Today we are going to talk about the problem, right? Typically I don't spend too much time on the problems, but this is like the 5th or 6th episode, depending on where you did in at. Our last episode was 2 parts, so if you did see the second part, make sure you get that one. But like, this is technically our 5th episode. Like, the 4th episode had 2 parts. So I want to be intentional about actually unpacking this. If you've been here this long, you've seen 5 videos, that means I know that your emotional security and maturity is there to have a deeper conversation around problems. Well, if it's not, well, we're going to do it. One thing that I mentioned very briefly that I want to dive deeper into is the costs, right? And there was a lesson that I learned early on as a business person. It was the difference between value, price, and cost. So I'm just going to go over those very briefly, and then we're going to end on why it's a problem. Okay. So cost, price, and value. So let's take the example of a pair of jeans, right? They might be priced at $99, right? So that's the price. Walk into the store, the jeans are priced at $99. Now, how much they cost is a reflection of how much you have. Like, so they don't cost $99 if you only have $200 to your name. That means they cost half of all the money that you have, right? And so that's going to have a different impact on you than if you had $10,000. If you had $10,000, that's 1,000 of your personal value, right? I mean, excuse me, that's 1,000 of how much it would cost you, right? Now let's get into value. Value is what you place on the item. So let's say these pants that I need, or jeans, whatever I called them, you needed them for a job. So if that job demanded and required you to have them specific kinds of jeans, but you can make $50,000 a year with that job, then you should place the value of those pants around $50,000 of your annual salary because you can't show up without that outfit on, without that uniform on. So let's run it back one more time and then we want to talk about the prop. The cost is $99, right? When they hang them on the rack, they're going to price them. That's how much the price is. Like how much it costs you is related to how much you have. So if the price is $99, then it costs you half your money. If you only had $200, if you have $1,000, it would cost you a tenth, so on and so forth. But the value of them is based on what you could do with them. And that's why we're talking about consistency and aesthetic around this, because a lot of times the price around building your aesthetic is might sound reasonable. Oh, I'm getting this $5,000 setup for $500, right? And a friend of yours is doing some favors for you. You got a free stylist and a free makeup artist and a free videographer or a free wardrobe, right? And it could be valued very high. It can be priced very high. But if it costs you 30 days of your time to orchestrate around this event, then you already priced at $5,000, but it takes me 30 days to use it. It's really worth somewhere around like $150 a day. Then you also have to mention the last part, right? Which is what's the value on these things? Right? Well, if you're only getting a music video out of it that's going to get me 500 views on YouTube, then you pretty much just flushed your time and your money down the drain for an aesthetic. It looks good, but you can't consistently present yourself in this manner because you can't always get $5,000 worth of free work or discounted work. And you also weren't able to pay for it. So, you couldn't just do it to get to all. So this is something that is very dangerous, and that's the larger problem with being an artist or being a creative, right? And messing yourself up and being yourself vulnerable to burning out later on in your journey is not being intentional about how much price things at, how much they cost, or what the true value of them are. I think this might be one of the shift. This is a new part that I want to introduce, right? Especially with one go we talk about comedy that long. I introduce like a shift in the narrative. Right. So something that I've been looking at lately is like, okay, everything I just said, and then what? Okay, I did like I'm one of the people who like, all right, I did everything you said wrong, right? I still need an answer. I've been one of those people. I almost lost, not almost lost. I lost my educational freedom and almost lost my civilian freedom, right? Once I was in the court system, my only question to my lawyer was, all right, now what? Because we already in the position. So the shift here is, if you're going to spend time and money, like we just said, we can use that exact same example with the 5,000 this and the 500 that and the 30 days this and that, play it back. Run some ads on it. The least you can do is run some ads on it. What do I mean by that? Run ad. That's just like a term. Advertisement is just what you're willing to pay to get people to see. So for example, if I'm going to spend $500 on a video and I know I got $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth of value in volunteer work, venue or space rental, videography, editing, styling, right? All of these components that would have cost me all individual. The least you can do is invest back into the project. That's the least you can do. So if I were to, let's just use the number 500 because you've already been using it, I would say at least invest 4 times as much as you would have, just receiving the value that we mentioned. So if it's 500, you got 2,000 for it to pour back into the project to ensure that people see it, then that's the best way to make the most out of aesthetic, right? Because it looks really good. If it looks that good, you don't want to let it go to waste. That's the shift here. We don't want to let it go to waste. You already have to really do content. Oh, you look really, really good in it. You already built the wall to wrap it. You've already informed people on it. So the least we might as well do now is run it up. Might as well pipe it up. We might as well magnify it. We might as well hype it up because it's already here. So that's the shift. And that's just step 1, right? I don't want to go too deep into this because this is something that we want to be patient with ourselves with. And that's what this whole Still One series is about, you by being intentional about recognizing these things, being self-aware, and then like just setting up the time and the space to be intentional about it. So that's all I got for y'all today on that one. This was just a conversation. I said, you are someone who's very, very worried about aesthetic, or if you know someone that's very worried about aesthetic, I'm not gonna lie, I probably wouldn't send this to them, but if you got enough courage to do it, go ahead. But this is mainly for the people who value consistency, right? Because the problem here was aesthetic. The answer here was consistency. And it wasn't that, no, you want to have a good aesthetic. The greatest part about having an aesthetic is that it's consistent. You know, that one person or that one thing that you admire the most, you love it because every time you see them, they show up in that glory. They show up in that triumph. They show up in that glamour, show up in that manner that makes you feel so connected to them. It's not that you genuinely think that this person is this way all the time. Iron Man ain't Iron Man. He Robert Downey Jr. You feel me? He's not Iron Man, but when you see him, you associate the roles that he plays as an actor with, how he showed up in that role in the fantasy world. You ascribe that. Same thing with like a rapper. You see like a gangster rapper, you think that he actually a gangster, when really he could be a father of three, going home about to drink some coffee. Like he probably not even living that life no more. So we gotta honor the self in these occasions and not, you know, drain ourselves or exploit ourselves. Some before love. So question that we'll ask ourselves before we get out of here today is, where will our stay take us? What are we willing to maintain consistently? I know for myself, we've been building this Still One brand, and it'll be going on a year very soon. So by the time we look back on this, it'll be 2 years, and we want to be able to actually say, like, what was the aesthetic? Always the world that would know. And how is it actually something that we can maintain consistent? What was the most impactful thing that we were doing?